So inflation is an ugly word. We're hearing it a lot these days, like we did back in the 70s. And most people think that the word inflation means the prices are getting higher, right? So that's how you hear it on TV. But these guys, who are the Austrian economists, and they're called Austrians because they mostly came from the country of Austria, but it wasn't as if they followed them in Austria. All these guys came here to the US escaping Austria. They define inflation as the increase of the monetary base. So inflating the number of dollars out there. As you have more of something, it's worth less. So if you create more, inflate more dollars, their buying power goes down, everything gets more expensive. So inflation refers to inflating the number of printed dollars out there, all right? So in 1971, after Nixon took us off the gold standard, it allowed the government to go to the Fed, say print and print, we're gonna create bonds, we're in Vietnam War, we've got all these programs we want to finance, we're no longer shackled by gold, right? Gold gives you golden handcuffs. So it kept the government in check because they couldn't spend more money than they had the gold, all right? At that point, we only had 4% inflation, which was seen as massive, massive inflation, increasing the number of dollars by 4%. So Paul Volcker came into as Fed chairman in 1980, and Volcker saw that gold and silver were soaring. Gold went from $42 an ounce to $800 an ounce. So 2,000% increase in the gold price. Silver went from about $2 an ounce up to $50 an ounce. So 25,000 or whatever, that huge percent increase of price. And everything was getting more and more expensive, right? We had inflation. So what did Paul Volcker do? He raised the federal funds rate to 18%, which meant you could go to the bank and get 15% on a CD. You can get 15% on a treasury. You could earn real money if you put money in the bank. What do you get today? Like 1%? Now it's maybe up to 3% with rates going up a little bit. So Volcker raised interest rates to 18%, which meant your mortgage, if you went to buy a house, was 20%. So people had to get very creative in how they sold their houses back in 1980. But gold went from 800 an ounce, where it had risen, back down to 200 an ounce. Silver went from $50 an ounce back down to about $2 or $3 an ounce. So by pulling in all of the printed paper, by giving a high interest rate, right? If you have a high interest rate, you bring your money to the bank, that pulls all the money back into the bank, they sucked in all that liquidity, right? All right, so let's fast forward. Between Greenspan, Bernanke, Yellen, and Powell, we now have 400% inflation. They've increased the number of printed dollars over the last 10 to 15 years by 400%. But if you have 31 trillion of debt, which is now 32 trillion, and you raise interest rates to 10%, that's 3.1 trillion of debt service alone. So they can't raise interest rates much beyond where it is right now. You'll hear a lot of talking from Powell. They might raise interest rates a little bit more, but they can't afford it because the American people can't afford the tax money to spend even on the debt, on the interest on the debt. Now, it's a little bit scary, but my thinking is we have to go back to the Constitution and get that golden handcuff back on our government. We have to get back to gold because otherwise printing and spending is just totally out of control. So back in 1964, if you went to the gas station, gas cost 25 cents a gallon. Now, if you bought me a quarter today, a 1964 quarter, I would buy it from you for about $4. So gas is what? Right around $4. So the price of gas has never gone up in terms of silver. And in fact, it probably would be about a dime if we still had silver in our coinage because of automation, improved refining practices, and things like that. So prices don't go up in terms of gold and silver. They go up in terms of fake money, counterfeit money, paper money, coins that are made of tin or zinc. All our pennies are now zinc or copper instead of gold and silver. A Hershey bar used to cost you a dime. It's now $1.50. But if you bought me a silver dime, I'd give you about $1.80. So Hershey bars have not gotten more expensive. I remember when Hershey bars were a dime. Well, they still would be a dime or less if you were using silver dimes. So from 1892 or 1792 to 1913, prices actually went down. You had natural deflation because gold and silver stayed the same. So gold and silver leads to level prices.